Moon Jae-in Kim Jong-un. The Korean conflict is an ongoing conflict based on the division of Korea between North Korea and South Korea, both of which claim to be the sole legitimate government of all of Korea. During the Cold War, North Korea was backed by the Soviet Union, China, and other allies, while South Korea was backed by the United States and its Western allies. The division of Korea by the United States and the Soviet Union occurred in 1945. Both superpowers created a government in their own image. Tensions erupted into the Korean War, which lasted from 1950 to 1953. When the war ended, both countries were devastated, with the utter destruction of much of the countries. But the division remained. North and South Korea continued a military standoff. With periodic clashes, the conflict survived the end of the Cold War and continues to this day. The US maintains a military presence in the South to assist South Korea in accordance with the ROK-US Mutual Defense Treaty. In 1997, US President Bill Clinton described the division of Korea as the Cold War's last divide. In 2002, US President George W. Bush described North Korea as a member of an axis of evil. Facing increasing isolation, North Korea developed missile and nuclear capabilities. Following heightened tension throughout 2017, 2018 saw North and South Korea, and the US, holding a series of summits which promised peace and nuclear disarmament. This led to the Panmunjom Declaration on the 27th of April 2018, when the North and the South agreed to work together to denuclearize the peninsula, improve inter-Korean relations, end the conflict and move towards the peaceful reunification. Korea was annexed by the Empire of Japan on the 22nd of August 1910 and ruled by it until the 2nd of September 1945. In the following decades during the Japanese occupation of Korea, the nationalist and radical groups emerged, mostly in exile, to struggle for independence. Divergent in their outlooks and approaches, these groups failed to unite into a single national movement. Based in China, the Korean Provisional Government failed to obtain widespread recognition. The many leaders advocating for Korean independence included the conservative and US-educated Syngman Rhee, who lobbied the US government, and the communist Kim Il-sung, who fought a guerrilla war against the Japanese from neighboring Manchuria to the north of Korea. Following the end of the occupation, many high-ranking Koreans were accused of collaborating with Japanese imperialism. An intense and bloody struggle between various figures and political groups aspiring to lead Korea ensued. On the 9th of August 1945, as agreed by the Allies at the Yalta Conference, the Soviet Union declared war on Japan and advance into Korea. The US government requested that the Soviet advance stop at the 38th parallel. The US forces were to occupy the area south of the 38th parallel, including the capital, Seoul. This division of Korea into two zones of occupation was incorporated into General Order No. 1, which was given to Japanese forces after the surrender of Japan on the 15th of August. On the 24th of August, the Red Army entered Pyongyang and established a military government over Korea north of the parallel. American forces landed in the south on the 8th of September and established the US Army military government in Korea. The Allies had originally envisaged a joint trusteeship which would steer Korea towards independence. But most Korean nationalists wanted independence immediately. Meanwhile, the wartime cooperation between the Soviet Union and the US deteriorated as the Cold War took hold. Both occupying powers began promoting into positions of authority Koreans aligned with their side of politics and marginalizing their opponents. Many of these emerging political leaders were returning exiles with little popular support. In North Korea, the Soviet Union supported Korean communists. Kim Il-sung, who from 1941 had served in the Soviet Army, became the major political figure. Society was centralized and collectivized. Following the Soviet model, politics in the South were more tumultuous. But the strongly anti-communist Syngman Rhee, who had been educated in the US, was positioned as the most prominent politician. In South Korea, a general election was held on the 10th of May 1948. The Republic of Korea was established with Syngman Rhee as president, and formally replaced the U.S. military occupation on the 15th of August in North Korea. The Democratic People's Republic of Korea was declared on the 9th of September. With Kim Il-sung as Prime Minister, Soviet occupation forces left the DPRK on the 10th of December 1948. U.S. forces left the ROK the following year, though the U.S. Korean Military Advisory Group remained to train the Republic of Korea Army. The new regimes even adopted different names for Korea, the North choosing Choseong, and the South Hanguk. Both opposing governments considered themselves to be the government of the whole of Korean Peninsula, and both saw the division as temporary. Kim Il-sung